Hey guys, today we're going to be going over and showing you how to install the B&W Companion OEM fifth wheel trailer hitch here on our 2020 Chevrolet Silverado 2500. So chances are, if you've done any fifth wheel towing before, you're probably familiar with the B&W brand. They're a highly rated fifth wheel hitch here, definitely a top of the line option. They have a lifetime warranty and they're made right here in the USA. Now honestly, these things are just overbuilt. They use these nice, thick, solid steel all the way around, so you know you're getting a durable product. We also have a nice gray powder-coated finish to help protect everything from rust and corrosion. So there are a few different B&W Companion fifth wheel hitch. You may be familiar with the one that actually attaches to the gooseneck hitch. This one, however, is going to be the OEM series, so it's going to be designed specifically for the Chevy puck system. It'll also work with the GMC puck system as well, which is going to be specific to the 2020 and newer models. With this puck system here, it's going to feature a simple drop-in installation. We're going to have a leg on each side of our hitch here that's going to drop right into our factory pucks. It's not going to attach to the center gooseneck ball there, nor is there an option for this when we have the factory prep package. So there are a couple things that B&W does really well with the Companion here. The first thing, and one of the reasons why it's so popular, is that we have the dual jaw design. These jaws are actually both 1 inch thick. So what this does is it allows us to get a very tight grip on the kingpin. And therefore, that tight grip is going to provide us with a nice and smooth ride, so we don't have our trailer really bouncing around, causing a lot of chucking and jarring issues. So something else that B&W does really well, really helps them stand apart from the competition, is our cam action handle. So I'll go ahead and show you that in action. But essentially, what the cam action handle does is, as opposed to just a standard release handle here, it obviously allows us to uncouple our fifth wheel hitch here. But if you've ever tried to uncouple when you're on uneven terrain, sometimes you might not even be able to get that handle out. There's going to be too much binding and tension on there to where you can't move the handle. You're not going to have that issue here with the B&W Companion. Due to the cam action design, it really springs those jaws open. So even if we're not on completely level terrain, we're going to be able to uncouple our trailer no problem. So if you're getting a little bit older, you don't quite have as much strength as you used to, your back might be hurting you a little bit, you really don't want to be lugging this heavy fifth wheel hitch in and out of the truck bed. Now B&W definitely, guys, he definitely has your best interest in mind here, because we have an easily removable hitch head. Therefore, we can break the hitch down into 2 pieces to save our back getting it in and out of the truck bed. In order to do this, it's super easy. We simply have 1 pin per side, pull the clip out, pull the pin out. We'll do that on the other side. Then we can lift both of these handles up to lift it off the base. So another feature I really like about the Companion here is that we have our fully articulating hitch head. Now essentially what this means is it's going to be able to tilt forward and backward. It's going to help smooth our ride out a little bit. It's also going to make it a little bit easier again to couple and uncouple our trailer here. So in regards to weight capacity, you shouldn't have any issue. There's actually going to be 2 different versions of this hitch. They pretty much look identical. We're going to have a 25K version and a 20K version. Now the 20K version is obviously going to be a little bit cheaper, so depending on how heavy our trailer is, we may be able to save a little bit money there. So the first step of our installation here, we're going to get our base out of the box, set it out here in front of us, along with our 2 pivot arms, which are these 2 brackets with these rubber bushings atop that we see here. So we're going to be installing these in our first step here, but before we do so, we need to go ahead and take a couple measurements, because there's more than one way we can install these pivot arms. So the pivot arms are going to do a couple different things. Number one, they're going to allow us to adjust the hitch head height here, and they're also going to allow us to adjust the offset, which is essentially where the kingpin is going to be centered in relation to the axle. So as we said, we have a couple different adjustments we can make here. So we want to go ahead and measure our trailer and our tow vehicle here, so we can make sure we're going to be selecting the correct hitch head height settings. We also want to go ahead and measure so we can ensure that we're selecting the proper offset for the kingpin in relation to the rear axle. If you're not sure how to do this, it'll be detailed more in our instruction manual. But once we've determined the correct locations, we can go ahead and install our pivot arms here. It's going to be really easy to do. We're just going to be using the middle set of the holes for example here. But we're going to take our hex bolts here along with our split lock washers. We'll align the holes in our pivot arms with one of the sets of holes inside here on our base, again depending on what settings we're going to be using. We can insert it through there to hold it in place. Now we'll come back and insert the rest of our bolts. We're going to go ahead and take our spacer blocks here, or threaded blocks rather. You're going to see there's two different sides to these. One side here where the threads start right away, and the other side here where there's a little bit of a clean bore here before the threads start. We want to make sure the side with a clean bore is going to be facing up against the fifth wheel hitch. Basically, there's going to be an access hole here. We'll drop the threaded block through there, and then we're going to line them up accordingly with the bolts that we just shoved through earlier. Once we get them lined up, we can loosely thread our hardware in from the other side to begin securing it in place. Now we'll take our other block here. We'll go ahead and insert that into the other side. Now keep in mind, we need to line up the sets of holes here in our threaded block with the sets of holes here on the back side of our base. So basically we're on the second one down, so we need to make sure that bolt hole comes out, that second hole there on our block. Now that we have all of our bolts started, we'll come back with a 19mm socket. We'll go ahead and snug them all up. So now we'll come back with our torque wrench here, and we'll torque down our 4 bolts. Once we get these torqued down, we'll repeat the same process on the other side. So now we need to go ahead and install our leveling kit. We're going to take our spring here, along with this bracket. They're going to align like so. We're going to see a little standoff on this leg here. That'll go over on that side. And then we're going to take our hex bolt here, slide that through the front, and follow that up with our lock nut on the back. We'll tighten these down using a 7/16" socket and wrench. We'll come over here to the driver's side pivot arm. We're going to stick it on the pivot arm. We need to first measure down a 1/2 inch from the bottom of our pivot bushing to the top of our spring here. Once we get the correct location, we'll go ahead and just hammer it on. So now that we have the leveling kit installed, we're ready to go ahead and drop our base into position. Before we do that, we need to get this ready. So we're going to come over here to each of our 4 legs. We're going to pull out our safety pin here, so then we can rotate our handles outward. This is the position they need to be in order for us to drop the base into the pucks. So we'll go ahead and do this on all 4 sides. We're going to have 2 nice convenient handles on either side here. Then we'll pick it up so we can drop it into place into the pucks, just like that. In order to lock it, we'll simply flip the handles over, and then we'll reinstall our safety pins. Our handles, they engage pretty easily, but once you set the base in, if you find that you cannot latch these handles closed here with your particular pucks, we can actually relieve some of the tension here to allow this. In order to do that, we're going to have a cotter pin here. We'll need to bend those tabs back so we can pull that cotter pin out, and then we'll simply loosen our castle nut a couple turns there until we're able to close the handle. Now alternatively, if we find that our handles are too loose here, we have too much slack, too much play, we'd actually tighten down the castle nut and then reinstall our cotter pin. But we have plenty of tension here. It's not too loose, so this is going to be perfect. We'll simply just install our safety pin. So now we're going to get our hitch head ready here. The first thing we're going to do to this, we're going to be installing the release handle. So we're going to remove the safety chain, or the safety pin here. Pull down on that like so. Once that clears, you can slide it out. Now we're going to take our handle, we're just going to slide it into position. We can reinstall the pin here to keep everything in place. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our hardware here. We have our button head screws. We'll simply drop those into position. We'll take our flange nuts here, just loosely thread them on the other side. So once we have our cap screws in place, we'll take a 7/32 inch Allen key and a 14mm wrench here, and we'll simply just tighten everything down. So now we're actually ready to set our hitch head into position onto the pivot arms. But first, our polyurethane bushings atop the pivot arms, we need to go ahead and lubricate these with some silicone grease there, just to help our head get it on there, take it off a little bit easier. But now we can take the hitch head here, we'll remove our saddle pins here from either side. And we're going to pick it up by the saddle handles here. And simply drop it into position. Now once we have the hitch head into position, we'll come back here with our saddle pins. And that'll do it today for our look and installation of the B&W Companion OEM fifth wheel trailer hitch here on our 2020 Chevrolet Silverado 2500.